Bonjour tout le monde, c'est moi Alyse. Hello everyone, it's me Alyse. Today I thought I'd do a pronunciation lesson. I'm not an expert, but let's go over some of the difficult sounds. First of all, the guttural R. It's not an R like in English or Spanish. Most of the time, you'll be taught it's kind of like gargling it in your throat to air. It's the letter R, air. Um, but it really doesn't have to be like that forceful. You just want to make sure you feel the vibration in your throat when you're saying it. So, for example, you have the word for wheel, roue, roue. You have the word for the verb to stay, rester. You have the word for rice, riz. Then you can also find it in the middle of the word. For example, with trop, it's too much. Trés, très bien, very good. And then towards the end of the word, for example, if you say an hour, une heure, to sleep, dormir, dormir. So it's not exactly the English R, but if you practice some of these words and make sure you feel a vibration in your throat, you should be understood. Another one is the U. The biggest tip I have for this is just to make sure you round your lips like you're doing kissy face U. So you have chute, like a fall. Of course, two, informal two. So if you're keeping your lips flat, you're not saying it the correct way. Then another big difficulty for students is like the oral versus the nasal sound. So you have, for example, une, feminine, and then you have un, masculine. So une is oral, and then un, you should feel in your nasal cavity, un. Then you have sonne versus son. So that would be SONNE versus SON. Excuse me. So we also will learn the liaison after this for these words that don't have an E after it, that are nasal. A lot of students will then start to pronounce it as if they've just added an E to the end, and it's not the same. So une amie and un ami. One is a friend that's a girl, one is a friend that's a boy. So you should be able to hear the difference in that. You have also the aspirated H's versus muted H's. For example, la haine, hatred, is an aspirated H, and then hôpital, hotel, those are just our usual muted H's. So the first thing you learn is just to leave the H silent, and then you're going to do a contraction. If it's followed by a vowel, you do L apostrophe because the H is silent, so we just consider it like there's a vowel. And you also do a liaison as if the H isn't there and you're going with the vowel that's after it. But with the aspirated H's, you're not going to do that, so it'll be la haine, you'll have it be la or le, and then you're not going to do a liaison for that reason either. And you just unfortunately have to look these up and memorize them, but they're not a whole lot. So let's go into the silent letters. So another common mistake is pronouncing letters, especially at the end of a word. And also, I really noticed the E. A lot of students, like maybe you're thinking about Spanish or something, where every letter has a sound, including the E. You're not going to do that with French. So let's start with a simple sentence like I'm going to the restaurant. I'm going to eat at the restaurant. Je vais manger au restaurant. So you know, je vais. Vais is V-A-I-S. The S is silent. Au restaurant, there's a T at the end of restaurant, but it's silent. So you get to practice your R's there, and you get to practice your silent letters. We could also say, I'm going to go to the port. Je vais aller au port. So that's P-O-R-T, but the T is silent. Your exceptions are usually going to be, a lot of times they're like short words. There's a vowel in front of the consonant, and the consonants that you'll hear a lot will be C, F, and L. For instance, je vais aller au lac. You can hear the C there for lake. So speaking of the silent letters, you'll notice that this is another thing that confuses people with the liaison, because you'll just learn all these are silent, and then we'll say, oh, but now it's in front of a vowel, so I need you to pronounce it. So for instance, you've learned vous, you, formal, and then if we want to say you have, vous avez. So vous, the S is silent, vous avez, you hear it as a Z. The T, you also will hear in front of a vowel. We talked about en amie, a friend. So N for A, meaning A, followed by a vowel, does change the sound. For F, it'll be pronounced as a V. So I'm 9 years old. Neuf is 9. J'ai 9 ans. It sounds like a V. And I want to keep this short, so I think we'll wrap it up there. I will put these words in the description so you can work on it. A last little note for common mistakes are like contractions. In French, there are a lot of contractions that you have to make. People usually don't have too much trouble with like je m'appelle or c'est, it's, which is combining ce, ce, with is, est, c'est, that's like not a problem. But then you have like, when you're going somewhere to the restaurant, we say au restaurant. So it's like a with the accent grave plus le, and that becomes o. And the same thing with from. If you have de, le, from the masculine, it has to become du. And with the plural, so if it's aller, going to someplace that's plural, then you then it becomes o, a-u-x. And the same thing with from, de and les, it becomes de, d-e-s, de. So those are required contractions. And that's a whole nother lesson because there are different rules for that, because you'll see sometimes like, I don't see it being done here. But hopefully this helps you with your French journey. Bonne journée. Au revoir.